Imagine a powerful man at the top of the world, a renowned CEO, a whirlwind in the stock market, with millions in his account and an empire built with sweat and intelligence. Chad was that man. At 55, he had everything money could buy, but felt empty inside. His skyrocketing success came with an incredibly high price: loneliness. He never married, never built a family, because he dedicated every fiber of his being to his career. What do you do when you reach the professional pinnacle, but realize that life's greatest treasure has slipped through your fingers? This is the story of Chad, a man who had to get lost to find himself, and whom life, or karma, led back to his past, to a place where happiness was simple and love genuine. Chad, in his prime, was the embodiment of ambition. His life in New York was a whirlwind of meetings, financial analyses, and billion-dollar decisions. He valued discipline, strategy, and above all, results. His few hours of sleep were exchanged for more work, and leisure was a word almost non-existent in his vocabulary. Chad grew up in a united and loving family, with his parents and a younger sister. The passing of his father, years earlier, was a heavy blow. From that moment on, the family dynamic shifted, and distance, both physical and emotionally, began to settle in. His mother relentlessly invited him to family gatherings, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and every call was a reminder of the void in his personal life. His sister, now married and a mother of two adorable boys, for whom Chad was godfather and whom he loved deeply, also called him, eager for his presence. Yet, he rarely attended. Chad felt a knot in his throat every time he had to invent an excuse not to go. The truth was, he felt inadequate, a stranger in a nest full of family love that he himself hadn't built. How could he explain to his mother and sister that, despite all his success, he didn't have a wife to share those intimate and meaningful moments with? The silent pressure for him to marry, the unspoken question of why he was alone, was an unbearable weight. He preferred the isolation of his luxurious penthouse, overlooking vibrant Manhattan, where the silence was deafening. But at least there were no questions. The pain of this loneliness, once muffled by the adrenaline of business, now screamed in his soul. A deep anguish, a simmering regret, began to gnaw at him from within. He found himself trapped in a gilded cage, unsure how to escape. The memory of family vacations on a paradisiacal island began to invade his thoughts with an overwhelming intensity. At the peak of his existential crisis, Chad found himself at a crucial crossroads. On one side, there was the cold, calculating, the voice of reason, the same one that had relentlessly guided him towards financial success. This voice told him to focus on what he knew, to double down on his career, perhaps invest in new projects, fill the void with more material achievements. After all, that's what the world expected of Chad, the ruthless CEO. This rational voice warned him of the risks of an impulsive decision, of abandoning everything he had built with such effort. Go back to an island, reason scoffed. Look for a childhood love. That's foolish sentimentality, something for those who have no more ambition. On the other side, a soft, persistent whisper echoed in his heart. It was the voice of his soul, yearning for something more, for a genuine human connection, for a purpose that transcended charts and spreadsheets. This voice brought to mind vivid memories of family trips, the carefree joy of childhood, the untouched, the beauty of that paradisiacal island. And, inevitably, the image of Lani appeared. However, Chad's rational mind struggled to minimize this aspect. "I'm not going back because of her," he repeated to himself, trying to convince himself. "I'm searching for my roots, the place where I was happy and carefree, before being swallowed by the business world." Deep down, he believed, or at least forced himself to believe, that Lani probably wouldn't be there anymore. An intelligent and talented woman like her surely would have left that island long ago, he thought. She must have pursued her career, married, built her own life somewhere with more opportunities. After all, what could a remote island offer as a future for an ambitious and promising adult? This rational thought served as a shield, protecting him from the vulnerability of admitting that a significant part of his desire to return to that lost paradise was linked to the hope, perhaps vain, of reconnecting with Lani. He clung firmly to the narrative that his journey was purely introspective, a search for his lost self, a rescue of his inner peace. The longing for the island was real. The need to escape the emptiness of his New York life was urgent. The dichotomy between the soul's desire and the logic of reason created a palpable inner tension. Finally, Chad made the decision to go, anchored in the false premise that he was seeking himself, while deep down, a small flame of hope for Lani stubbornly refused to extinguish. Chad, with light luggage and a heart heavy with expectation, returned to the island. The salty air, the sound of the waves, and the exuberance of nature were a balm for his weary soul. Walking the familiar paths, nostalgia enveloped him. And then, he saw her. It was on a sunny afternoon, near the old tree where they played as children. Lani was there, talking with some local women, her smile open and welcoming. When their eyes met, Time seemed to stand still. Despite the years, despite the vastly different lives they had lived, they recognized each other in their essence, with a depth that transcends time. There was no need for many words, just the silent confirmation of a connection that had never truly disappeared. Lani was different, of course. Time had sculpted her beauty, but her eyes, oh, those eyes still held the same light and depth he remembered. Lani had become a doctor and, true to her conviction of purpose, had returned to the island to serve her people, operating a modest clinic with limited resources but a giant heart. Her journey, like Chad's, was singular. She also had not married. For Lani, medicine was not a career in pursuit of profit or recognition, but a life project, a genuine vocation to alleviate suffering and promote the well-being of her community. Her family, who still lived on the island, was the foundation of her life, and her relationship with them was one of deep trust and mutual support. As they looked into each other's eyes, Chad and Lani saw not only the reflection of the past, but also the essence of their choices, the pursuit of something deeper than the material world could offer. Both in their own way had chosen a path of purpose, even if Chad only realized it now. The first encounters were marked by a mixture of shyness and joy. They relived memories, shared their journeys, and gradually, the truth became undeniable for Chad. He hadn't returned just for himself. Lani's presence reignited a flame he had tried to ignore, and the connection between them was as strong as he remembered, perhaps even stronger. Lani made him question every value he had upheld. She didn't talk about profits or stocks, but about impact, about healing, about helping others. Lani made him see life through the eyes of the heart, not just the cold lens of reason. One evening, as they talked on the porch of Lani's clinic under a starry sky, the tranquility was shattered. A young mother appeared with her son, who was suffering from serious gastric problems. The little boy, about 6 years old, was pale, sweating cold, and moaning intermittently. His eyes, once bright, were dull with pain. The mother, visibly distraught, held the child tightly, her hands trembling. Lani, with an impressive calm that only experience and vocation could provide, began a true race against time. She quickly assessed the boy's condition, feeling his abdomen, listening to his heart with a rudimentary stethoscope. "It's an acute gastric crisis, possibly appendicitis or something more serious that requires immediate intervention," Lani said, her voice firm despite the urgency. "We need to stabilize him here and send him for urgent surgery at a larger center." Lani's struggle was evident. With the few available pieces of equipment, syringes that had to be handled with extreme care to avoid breaking, limited medications, and poor lighting, she administered painkillers and saline, monitored the boy's vital signs, searching for any sign of improvement. She spoke to the mother in a calm tone, explaining each step, conveying confidence even in the face of the dire situation. The mother, her voice choked with emotion, looked at her son and then at Lani, a mix of hope and despair. Lani knew that stabilization here was crucial, but the surgery, the only real hope, would need to be performed at a much more advanced center off the island. Chad watched, mesmerized. That scene, Lani's unwavering dedication in the face of adversity, the life of a child in her skilled hands, all of it was a turning point. For the first time in years, Chad didn't think about numbers, financial returns, or costs. He thought about lives. "Lani," he interjected, his voice firm but laden with a new emotion, "I have a private jet. I can arrange for this child and his mother to be flown immediately to the best medical center we can find. There's no time to lose." Lani's eyes widened, not just from surprise, but from a wave of relief that washed over her. A mix of deep gratitude and an almost childlike astonishment filled her face. She knew of Chad's wealth, of course, but the offer of a private jet, with such readiness and without any questioning about cost or logistics, revealed a side of him she hadn't seen since childhood. Chad showed himself to be absolutely solicitous and supportive, a facet that the ruthless CEO from New York would never have imagined displaying. It was the first time he truly understood the value of his financial power beyond personal profit, using it to save a life. Her resilience, her unwavering faith in her purpose, were contagious, and Chad's gesture sealed the profound transformation that was occurring in his heart. Before returning to New York, Chad felt a strong calling to visit his mother. Years of absence weighed on his heart, and he knew he needed to share this new life perspective with his family. The arrival at his mother's house was filled with emotion. Her tight hug and the tears in her eyes spoke volumes about the longing and joy of the reunion. Sitting on the porch, with the soft afternoon breeze, Chad told her about his time on the island, about Lani, and about the epiphany that struck him when he witnessed the doctor's struggle to save the small patient. His mother listened attentively, with a sparkle in her eyes that Chad hadn't seen in years. She was radiant to hear about her son's future plans, his intention to help Lani and the island community. Chad's sister, upon learning of his visit, rushed over with her children. The reunion with his nephews was pure joy. The children jumped into his arms, calling him Uncle Chad with enthusiasm. They ran around the yard, played ball, and when the rain started to fall, they didn't hesitate to invite their uncle to play in the water. Chad, to everyone's surprise, including his own, joined the fun, laughing and enjoying himself as he hadn't in decades. His mother and sister watched the scene from the window, their hearts overflowing with happiness. It was the Chad from before, the kind and fun-loving man that ambition had obscured, returning to their lives. That night, the family home was filled with warmth and affection, a stark contrast to the cold solitude of Chad's penthouse in New York. His mother and sister were visibly moved and happy to see the son and brother they loved so much returning to his essence. Back in his luxurious apartment in New York, Chad stood by the immense panoramic window, a glass of red wine in hand. The city glittered below, a testament to the empire he had built. But now, the view didn't bring him the same pride as before, only a sense of emptiness. He replayed every moment on the island in his mind. Lani's smile, the gratitude of the boy's mother, the infectious joy of his nephews. In that instant, looking at the city lights that once represented his success, Chad had an overwhelming certainty. He needed to change radically. He could no longer live for numbers, for empty achievements. Life had led him back to what was essential, and he could not ignore that message. With renewed determination, Chad decided then and there, he would sell his assets. He would shock the financial market. Yes, but there was a lingering doubt in his mind. Would Lani want to be part of this new chapter? After all, they hadn't talked about the future, only about the past and the urgent present. Would she be willing to build something new alongside him, or was her purpose on the island too strong for her to leave? That solitary toast by the window marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new and promising chapter. But with the uncertainty of what the future held for them both, Chad's return to the island was not just a reunion with a cherished past, but with a Lani who, in her heart, already nurtured the hope that they could finally start fresh, or rather, begin a story together, with the maturity and awareness that love and purpose were the pillars of true happiness. Chad wasted no time. His new routine on the island was vibrant. Far from the coldness of boardrooms, he dove headfirst into the clinic project, which now looked more like a mini-hospital, with so much state-of-the-art equipment and a multidisciplinary team that Chad, with his power to mobilize and resources, had provided. The vibrant walls, the well-equipped consulting rooms, the impeccable operating theater, and the comfortable recovery rooms were a testament to his transformation. Chad's story shows us that true success transcends figures and applause. It's about having the courage to look within, to recognize the emptiness, and to seek a new path. It's about the determination to let go of what no longer serves us and to build something that resonates with the soul. And, above all, it's about finding a purpose that gives meaning to existence, that inspires us to help others and to spread good energy. Chad's journey reminds us that, no matter your age, it's never too late to start over and build a life of meaning, where wealth is measured by the ability to touch lives and love becomes the greatest investment. What would you do if you were in Chad's shoes? Do you believe in the transformative power of courage, determination, and purpose in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next inspiring stories from Stories That Inspire. Until the next story that inspires.